Broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world, this is GRTS News. Our top stories tonight. Dozens of delegates from the sub-region gather in Banjul for a day-long discussion on the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325. The Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Touré, underscores the Gambia's commitment to the building of national resilience amid the global commemoration of International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. And reaping the benefits of Sino-Gambia cooperation, over 40 Gambians benefit from a major training program in China, courtesy of the First Ladies Foundation. Elsewhere, anti-government riots grip Ecuador as angry protesters demand government restore fuel subsidies amid a dire economic situation in this South American nation. And U.S. and Chinese negotiators make frantic efforts to iron out differences during a second day of talks over recent retaliatory trade war. These and other stories coming ahead this hour. Thanks for staying with us. A warm welcome to GRTS News. My name is Ibrahim Chata. We begin this bulletin with a major convergence by delegates who have met to discuss the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. It was adopted in 2000 to expand a gender perspective, considering the special needs of women and girls during conflicts, repatriation, resettlement, rehabilitation, and reintegration, as well as post-conflict reconstruction. Benedict Sana has more on the high-level meeting attended by Vice President Dr. Aissatou Touré in Banjul.
Dr. Aissatou Touré officiated the open day on Security Council Resolution 1325-2000 and the subsequent resolutions on women, youth, peace, and security. The Banjul Convergence was a debate on women, peace, and security for women of West Africa and the circular.
It refers to the disproportionate and unique impact of armed conflict on women and girls, while at the same time acknowledging that women are not mere victims of conflict, but active agents with an important role to play in conflict prevention, peacekeeping initiatives, and peace-building efforts.
The UN Security Council Resolution 1325-2000, adopted in October 2000, was the first to highlight the fact that women count for peace. Through this resolution, the Security Council recognized the essential role women play in advancing peace, security, development, and human rights, a message that resonated in this forum.
I am glad to state that some progress has been made in passing laws against sexual and gender-based violence and improving women's security.
And as the Banjul Convergence debate on women, peace, and security for women of West Africa and the Sahel, the meeting calls for increased participation of women at decision-making levels in conflict resolution and peace processes, and the inclusion of data on gender and conflicts in the reports of the Security Council. Sarafina Wakana, the United Nations resident coordinator in the Gambia, said the open day was designed to review the implementation of the UN Security 1325, initially carved to provide women the opportunity to be able to prevent, manage, and resolve conflicts, as well as increase their representation at all levels in national, regional, and international institutions, and to mainstream gender perspectives in all policies and programs.
I call on you, the participants, to redouble your efforts in engaging member states to ensure increased representation of women at all decision-making levels.
Dr. Siga Fatima Jan, ECOWAS Commissioner for Gender and Social Affairs, dilated on the UN Security Council and the crucial role women play in conflict resolution 19 years since its adoption.
Since the passage of the resolution, the ECOWAS Commission has focused on the development of numerous frameworks to guide us in our work on conflict prevention and resolution in West Africa.
The Special Representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations for West Africa and the Sahel, UNOWAS, His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers said promoting peace is crucial in any development. The UN Special Representative also said that progress has been made in the increase of women in decision-making positions, citing Guinea-Bissau as an example.
Last year in Praia, we launched a comparative study among West African countries, which highlighted the fact that women's political participation in West Africa still remains low, very low.
The resolution also seeks to put to an end all impunity and to prosecute those responsible for genocides, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, including those relating to sexual and other violence against women and girls. The Open Day Forum was also graced by the Minister of Women, Children and Social Welfare, Honorable Fatou Kinte.
This high-level participation clearly demonstrates our collective determination to address the challenges towards maintaining sustainable peace in the continent of Africa.
The Gambia, said Minister Kinte, has made significant progress in the implementation of Resolution 1325. For the news, I am Bernadette Sane.
Meanwhile, the Vice President of the Gambia, Dr. Aissatou Touré, has delivered a televised statement marking International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. This year's theme aims to substantially reduce disaster damage to critical infrastructure and disruption of basic services, among them health, educational facilities, including the development of resilience by 2030. Take a listen.
And friends of the Gambia, on behalf of the government and people of the Republic of the Gambia, I take this opportunity to thank the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction on the occasion of the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction 2019, which aims at promoting a global culture of disaster reduction, including disaster prevention, mitigation, and preparedness. It is an opportunity to acknowledge the progress being made towards reducing disaster risk and losses in lives, livelihoods, and health. The adoption of the Sendai Framework, Disaster Risk Reduction 2015-2030, has marked a new era in global efforts to reduce disasters on lives and properties for poverty alleviation as per the SDGs. I have the firm conviction that the theme for this year, Target D, substantially reduce disaster damage to critical infrastructure and disruption of basic services, among them health and educational facilities, including through developing their resilience by 2030, will significantly contribute to achieving the objectives and targets of the Sendai Framework. Fellow Gambians and friends of the Gambia, since 2015, the Gambia has committed itself to invest in risk reduction through the improvement of government sectoral policies, enforcement and monitoring mechanisms to ensure that our national policy is supportive to the Sendai agenda. As a result, the current National Development Plan 2018 to 2021 has prioritized disaster risk reduction through a series of consultations with citizens, including vulnerable groups.
The Vice President of the Gambia, Dr. Aissatou Touré, highlighting national efforts to build resilience. Now, a team of 43 personnel are set to benefit from a 3-week training in the People's Republic of China. The package came courtesy of the Office of the First Lady. Beneficiaries will be trained in honey processing, packaging, beekeeping, and other important national development areas. Mijai has the details.
Gambia relations have seen rapid developments in diverse facets, allowing the two sister nations to work closely to strengthen long-existing bilateral relations. The Banjul-Beijing partnership ushered in a collaborative program that is creating waves both in the home front and beyond, as more Gambians benefit from cultural exchanges, learning new and innovative technologies in China to transfer expertise back home.
We are here today to give support to this important event in the relationship between the Republic of the Gambia and the People's Republic of China to further consolidate the people-to-people relationship, which has been signed before when His Excellency President Adama Barrow visited the Republic of China.
Moving to strengthen that strong partnership, First Lady Fatty Barrow is driving a special scheme hinged on advancing the cause of Gambian women and girls via lucrative and marketable skills. Securing a training package from the Sino-Gambia Corporation through her foundation, 43 personnel comprising both men and women are all set to benefit from an intensive 3-week course on beekeeping, honey processing, packaging, and labeling. The training will allow beneficiaries to acquire new skills and knowledge on modern techniques of beekeeping and honey processing. The Chinese ambassador to the Gambia hailed Banjul-Beijing relations while recognizing the great importance First Lady Barrow attaches to the advancement of Gambian women.
Her Excellency has always attached great importance to the capacity building of the Gambian people. She has worked with our Chinese embassy for so many times to discuss how to promote the progress of the related projects. So with Her Excellency personal promotion, we successfully managed this training program, the beekeeping and the honey processing. So this is a good project.
Women, Children and Social Welfare Minister advised the selected cohort to serve as good ambassadors of the Gambia during their stay in China.
You are never old to be trained. While you are in China, one, you are going to serve as ambassadors of the Gambia. You are going to be our eyes, our ears in China. And also during your training, ask as many questions as possible. I know we all have different capacities of acquiring knowledge or understanding. Some will understand faster than others. So after the classroom, please be engaged in discussions to make sure that you explain to each other more so that you understand better.
Modernization and mechanization of agriculture is targeted as a key driver of growth in the Gambia, a process which the Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Agriculture Ministry says demands a well-trained and equipped personnel.
Beekeeping is part of agriculture as it is under the Ministry of the Department of Livestock, which is under the Ministry of Agriculture. This training would be very important. It's very important and would be a key factor to enhance your capacity to add value to honey to the high level, from the honey hive to the dinner table or to the supermarkets, as you yearn to keep stand and add value to your economic stand as women of this country.
Training beneficiary Kairaba Fatty and Aissatou Njai spoke on behalf of the team. The duo couldn't be more grateful to the First Lady for what they described as a lifetime opportunity. They used the opportunity to further solicit more support from the First Lady for a lab and export market linkages, which they lamented as major challenges in their work.
The office of the First Lady, this is her passion. She will never give you fish. She will train you how to catch fish. And that is more sustainable. And that's the same policy that the Republic of China is doing. I think we've been doing a lot of exhibitions in the country. She has personally given us groups for us to train, to build their capacity. And thank God that some of the participants have started training with us. She is calling us to tell us, I want you to train our women groups so that they can sustain their livelihood.
The 43-member team is now set to depart Banjul on Saturday for a 3-week stay in China, where they will be taken through new methods in honey processing and production. Officials aim to utilize the group as trainers in different regions of the country upon return. Ominjai, GRTS.
Now, officials of the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education and their partners and students as well as local authorities recently gathered in Mansakonko for the commemoration of the world's largest lessons. The event forms part of the United Nations drive to attain sustainable development goals, engaging school children in the discussion of vital issues such as poverty, education, gender equality, healthcare, and natural resources, among others. Samuel Ba has more.
The world's largest lessons is a growing movement of educators, civil society organizations, ministries of education, and passionate individuals sharing the Sustainable Development Goals with millions of young people all over the world. In the Gambia, celebrations marking the world's largest lessons were commemorated in Mansa Konko on the theme Writing the Future of Childhood, for every child, every right.
This year's theme, entitled Writing the Future for Childhood, Every Child, Every Right, based on the UN Convention of the Rights of Children, is a case in point. It is important in that it will provide students the opportunity to think about and discuss their rights as children, and also try to recreate an ideal world for them and other children within the country.
The right for children to live free from violence or fear remains a distinct priority on the international development agenda. The UNICEF country representative, however, reminded the young people that those rights come with responsibilities.
The right of children to be protected from economic exploitation through child labor, Article 32, are few of the rights you have. But like highlight with your regional director and the chairperson, your right come with responsibility.
The world's largest lessons, which is being commemorated in the Gambia for the third time, is intended to expose young people to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations and accord them the opportunity to participate in lively discussions and inspire their enthusiasm in classrooms.
This year's lesson will help all students to understand the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. It is therefore imperative that you, the students gathered here, and even those not here with us this morning, but in their schools or in their homes or in whatever other place they are, should be in the heart of this agenda, and your roles cannot be overemphasized, as you are extremely, extremely crucial in achieving the SDGs and holding leaders accountable for its achievement.
The UNICEF-funded activity in Mansa Konko has attracted over 2,000 students in 10 centers to discuss issues affecting their lives. Samuel Bach, GRTS.
Learning from the world's largest lessons. Samuel Bach there. Now, the ambassador of the Republic of the Gambia to the Republic of Guinea-Bissau is also accredited to the Republic of Cape Verde. His Excellency Alke Jammeh has presented his letters of credence to the President of Cape Verde, His Excellency Jorge Carlos de Almeida Fonseca, at a ceremony held at the Presidential Palace in Praia. Areas of interest discussed for possible bilateral relationship were education, youth and sport, travel and tourism, energy, cargo and passenger air travel. Ambassador Jammeh took the opportunity to share a report on the Gambia's progress of reform and strengthening of democracy since the new government assumed power. The leader of the Gambia Moral Congress, Mai Fatty, has announced his resignation as special advisor to the president at a press conference on Friday. Given a month's notice of his resignation, the GMC leader said he tendered his letter of resignation to the Personal Management Office on the 9th of October and is expected to leave office next month. The prominent politician spoke on a wide range of issues at a press conference. Live from Chamasmo.
Mai Fatty is out of government. He was the first post-Jammeh Interior Minister and was also the first minister sacked from the coalition government. In 2019, he was appointed again as special advisor to the president. At a press conference organized with his GMC members, Mai Fatty publicly announced tendering his resignation and his reasons.
Precisely the 9th of October 2019, I submitted a notice of termination of my contract of appointment as a special advisor to the president. I no longer feel challenged, and also I do not feel being useful as special advisor to the president anymore. And so there is no need to continue. As simple as that.
The GMC leader spoke on a wide range of issues surrounding his tenure as both Interior Minister and Special Advisor to the President, in which he mentioned was a continuation of a thorough security sector reform to ensure the respect of human rights and rule of law in the country's security sector services.
As the first post-Gambia Minister of Internal Security, no one knows better than I the urgent need to transform the security sector. When we took over on February 1st, 2017, we inherited a security sector that was deeply politicized and not responsive to the needs of the citizenry. It was therefore necessary to initiate a robust reform process that would create a professional, accountable security sector loyal only to the Constitution, under democratic civilian control, with full respect for human rights and the fundamental principles of good governance.
The 3-year debate was also raised, and Mr. Fatty gave the position of which he and his party stands.
Those of us who believe that my resignation has anything to do with the 3 years Jotna, we are making a mistake. I am not part of that, and my party is not part of it. And I will not be out in the streets on a 3-year agenda. I will not be. Those who want to, is their constitutional right to disagree. And I will uphold and support their right to protest. They must be allowed to protest. They must. Nobody can deny that right from them. If they deny that right from me, I'll be forced to go to court to defend them.
Responding to the accusations of the former Vice President Tambajang on trying to contact all stakeholders of the coalition on important meetings, Mai Fatty debunked those claims.
She adopted an exclusionary tactic by preventing us. My representatives to the coalition discussions are here. None of them had ever received a phone call from Madam Tambajang about any of the meetings. I want her to produce a single letter that was sent to GMC informing us about the meetings. One single letter that was delivered from her to my office. One. I put her on the challenge to produce it. I can tell you, till the cows come home, she will never be able to produce it because it will never happen. And I told her this last night, and she said, well, I use WhatsApp. I told her, Madam, you were the former Vice President of this country. Coalition is the bedrock of this government. Do you run a government on WhatsApp? You are saying you're sending WhatsApp messages, an important matter like this?
The GMC finally stated that his party is now in full action and that all that left the party due to his reappointment shall come back because they have a nation to build and the GMC is the future of the Gambia. Reporting for GRTS News, I'm by Ibrahim Champ.
The second exit from government, Mai Fatty tenders his resignation again. Now, in other news, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmed, the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, has addressed global delegates at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris. Ambassadors, top government officials, and representatives from various organizations across France attended the major gathering, which explored the role of peace in attaining sustainable development goals on October 8, 2019. Various speakers who spoke at the event examined the role of peace in attaining sustainable development. Speakers also expressed admiration for the peaceful aspirations and works of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community and other concerted global efforts to ensure peace. Now, the Agribusiness Service Unit of the Department of Agriculture and the Food and Agriculture Sector Development Project, FASTDEP, has organized a 3-day training in bookkeeping and financial management. The training program in Genoa LRR targeted members of the Youth Agricultural Service Centers and beneficiaries of FASTDEP margin grants. Our Lower River Region correspondent Alajimbai has more.
3-day training organized by the Agribusiness Service Unit of the Department of Agriculture in collaboration with FASTDEP aims to equip members of the Youth Agricultural Service Centers and beneficiaries of the FASTDEP matching grants with bookkeeping and financial management skills. The director of the Agribusiness Service Unit, Abaji Sankare, said proper record keeping and financial management is crucial to the sustainability of the businesses of the youth service centers and individual farmers.
If you are talking of sustainability, especially with our groups, I think this area is very fundamental Because if you are into business as a group, your financial management aspect is poor. Definitely, nobody will have confidence in that group. Because as a business, you need to take it as a business and with seriousness. And that seriousness is you must have all these items I have just made mention here. For the purpose of auditing, it will make it easier for the audit. For the purpose of accountability and transparency.
The Regional Agriculture Director, Lower River Region, Demba Sanyang, acknowledged the contributions of FASDEP to the development of agriculture. He, however, called on farmers to make the best use of the opportunities at their disposal and properly manage the income generated from their farms.
This is the greatest opportunity FASDEP can do towards the development of this country and equally contributing to the development of agriculture. You've all been beneficiaries in one way or the other. In tractors, power tillers, you name them. These are functioning and we expect them to be functional for a period. But equally, it is your own responsibility as well to make sure you be your self-auditor. How do you do this? Through proper bookkeeping and recording.
At the end of the training, participants will be provided with passbooks and receipt books for their various businesses. Organizers and beneficiaries are hopeful that the initiative will improve agribusiness across the country. Alajimbai, GRTS News.
Live from Banjul, this is GRTS News. To sports now, and a two-day introductory Level 1 training for cricket coaches, which ended at the Gambia National Olympic Committee's house on Thursday. The event organized by the Gambia Cricket Association was meant to introduce young coaches to the basics of the game. Hamad Badi attended the closing ceremony and tells us more.
This group gathered here is drawn mainly from schools, various cricket teams and communities. The event organized by the Cricket Association was meant to expose young cricket coaches basic knowledge about cricket, and the instructors said the training was a success.
A big success because from yesterday till today we have seen the when we get the review this morning, we have seen that most of them have come up, studied also the game, and then when we ask questions, they answer to those questions, and then we've now put it to them that now they have to go back to their community or their schools and make sure they implement what they have learned there.
Our aim is to make sure each and every one of them, before the end of the year, they must have a cricket team. They should get a cricket team by the end of the year, either in their community or even a street team, that they can really show that definitely what they've learned here has been implemented.
Participants said they have learned a lot and are ready to implement the knowledge gained from the training to their clubs and communities.
If we get back to the schools or if we get back to our clubs, we can able to help the children in order to develop them to become national players of cricket in this country.
We learn a lot here, just like how to train a kid about cricket. We learn the basic like how to hold and grip the baton and how to throw the ball, fielding and how to stop. We learn a lot.
The training facilitators said they will continue to support the young coaches and closely monitor their progress in developing cricket across their communities and regions. At the end of the training, certificates were presented to all the participants, acknowledging their participation in the Level 1 introductory training course. Farmer Abaji, GRTS News.
Promoting cricket in the Gambia. Johnny Gomez and his people there. Now let's take a look at some other news making headlines around the world. Starting in Ecuador, where anti-government protesters paraded captive police officers at a rally as the country's worst unrest in a decade continues. Organizers say they will not back down until the government restores fuel subsidies. CGTN's Dan Collins reports from Quito.
The mood was defiant as thousands of indigenous protesters, angry over increased fuel prices, filled this cultural center in Ecuador's capital. After another night of anti-government protests directed at President Lenin Moreno, leaders said the strike would continue.
It's up to the president to repeal the decree to lift the strike. If he doesn't, the strike continues.
We want to make clear that we have never made any agreement with the national government.
The demonstrators detained at least 8 uniformed police officers who they forced on stage before the crowd. The stance of the indigenous movement has toughened even further after clashes on Wednesday night left more casualties. Here in this theatre, indigenous leaders say there will be no negotiation with the government, and some are even calling for Lenin Moreno, the president of Ecuador, to step down. It has been the worst unrest Ecuador has seen in a decade, which began when the government lifted fuel subsidies, causing prices to spike overnight. Ecuador's government wants dialogue, but will not negotiate under the threat of violence and vandalism, according to Foreign Minister José Valencia.
This is an extremely critical situation, which is not a decision of the indigenous leaders. We trust in their word. We believe, and we have evidence, that this is a result of calls by opposition leaders to use violence, to take control of public institutions and roads, and to attack the forces of order with violence.
He told CGTN foreigners, including Venezuelans, had been arrested, adding the cost from lost oil revenue and other damages could run into the tens of millions of dollars. The government says more than 700 people have been detained and some 80 police officers injured as a result of the clashes.
The police had followed strict protocols of action, which have been in place for years and were drawn up under international norms.
He said the United Nations and the Catholic Church was backing peaceful dialogue with some indigenous and trade union groups. Meanwhile, Peru and Chile are standing by President Moreno as he faces the worst crisis since he took office in 2017. Dan Collins, CGTN, Quito.
High in Quito there. Now, elsewhere, Chinese and U.S. negotiators have continued trade talks for the second day running. This latest round of negotiations comes just days before Washington has threatened to increase some tariffs on Chinese goods. CGTN's America Rottenbach reports.
Negotiators got down to work, meeting for a 13th round of high-level talks, this time in Washington. Thursday's talks spanning 8 hours behind closed doors. At stake, an almost 16-month trade war between the world's 2 biggest economies. The goal, to end it, or at least to press pause. The U.S. president first imposed tariffs on China, triggering retaliatory tariffs, and the tit-for-tat that ensued. Early in the day, Trump tweeted, "They want to make a deal, but do I?" Towards the end of the day, the U.S. president seemed more optimistic.
We just completed a negotiation with China. We're doing very well. We're having another one tomorrow. I'm meeting with the Vice Premier over at the White House, and I think it's going really well. I will say, I think it's going really well.
Chinese Vice Premier Liu He is leading the delegation from Beijing, which says trade disputes are best resolved through cooperation, not intimidation. Speaking in Australia, Trump's Commerce Secretary defended Washington's approach.
America does not love imposing tariffs. In fact, we would prefer not to use them. But after years of discussions and no action, tariffs are finally forcing a number of our trading partners that had taken advantage of us to pay attention to our concerns.
The ongoing trade war has adversely affected both economies, and indeed the world. Here in the U.S., it's estimated the average American family is $800 worse off because of the tariffs. And Europe is tipping into a recession, experts say, in part as a domino effect from the trade war. More tariffs are coming on October the 15th. They're being raised on $250 billion worth of Chinese imports, from 25% to 30%. And on December 15th, just before the shopping holidays, a whole new round of tariffs. At that point, all Chinese imports will be taxed. In a concession to the U.S. and perhaps a mini deal, China could agree to buy more American agricultural products. But Washington's big asks, these structural changes to the Chinese economy and greater American access to Chinese technology, well, those will need to be negotiated over a longer period of time. So the big question is, will these latest talks, which are really part of a marathon of sorts, will they achieve in setting up a clear path forward for more substantial negotiations? Rowie Ruttenberg, CGTN in Washington. China.
This is the news with me, Ibrahim Ajata. A quick look at the top stories before we go. Dozens of delegates from the sub-region have gathered in Banjul for a day-long discussion on the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325. The Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Touré, has underscored the Gambia's commitment to the building of national resilience amid the global commemoration of International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction and reaping the benefits of Sino-Gambia cooperation. Over 40 Gambians have benefited from a major training program in China, courtesy of the Office of the First Lady. Elsewhere, anti-government riots have gripped Ecuador as angry protesters demand government restore fuel subsidies and the dire economic situation in the South American country. US and Chinese negotiators are making frantic efforts to iron out differences during a second day of talks over the recent retaliatory trade war. That was all in this edition of the news. Thanks for the pleasure of your company, and stay with GRTS for more exciting programs.